don't even know where to start. This game was so bad and embarrassing. This just made the Fever look horrendous. I mean, what Stephanie White strategically did today lets me know this is going to be Vanderbilt 2.0. That's what this is.
It suggests that the organization isn't just stumbling by mistake, but is being dismantled purposefully from within. It implies that those trusted with the keys to the franchise are steering it straight toward disaster without looking back. When you observe the Indiana Fever on the court right now, when you truly evaluate the strategy, the lineups, and the dreadful roster management around the most significant figure in the history of women's basketball, you can't just call it a struggle. You can't just call it a rebuilding phase. You have to call it sabotage, because the Indiana Fever just became the first team in WNBA history to drop consecutive home games in overtime despite getting a 32-point performance from their franchise player. Welcome back. This is WNBA Pro. And the responsibility for that 104-102 overtime defeat against the Washington Mystics doesn't fall on Caitlin Clark. It falls squarely on head coach Stephanie White. And it is time to state that clearly, boldly, and with the statistical evidence to prove it. Let me begin with what Caitlin Clark actually accomplished on that court, because this individual effort deserves praise before the coaching failure is completely unmasked. Clark logged 37 minutes and 27 seconds. She played those grueling heavy minutes while dealing with a persistent back issue that demands constant attention during play. Yet, despite that physical burden, she put on an absolute masterclass. She shot 10 for 28 from the floor. She knocked down 7 of 17 from beyond the arc. Her shot is officially back. Her form is perfect. Her rhythm has returned. She distributed 8 assists. She pulled down 4 rebounds. She went an unblemished 5 for 5 from the free throw line. She even sank an unbelievable viral half-court shot when her squad was completely running on empty. But here is the statistic that exposes the sabotage. Caitlin Clark finished the game as a +4. +4 in a contest her team dropped by a mere 2 points.
Oh my goodness! Guys, look at this. Look at this, guys. Would you look at this?
Caitlin Clark was undeniably the best player in that building.
Caitlin Clark was without a doubt the most dominant player on that court on Thursday night. While she was out there, the Fever controlled the game. But a WNBA matchup lasts 40 minutes plus overtime. And because Stephanie White has absolutely no offensive game plan when her point guard rests, the team completely gave away points the moment Clark went to the bench to get some air. Clark dropped this game because of the choices being made around her, not because of her own performance. And those choices begin with how Stephanie White is handling, or rather mishandling, the veteran pieces on this team. Kelsey Mitchell was just as spectacular on the scoreboard. She put up 24 points. She shot 4 of 8 from deep. But she scored 38 minutes and 33 seconds. Those are dangerously high minutes for a player whose physical health Stephanie White spent the entire offseason promising to protect. Together, Clark and Mitchell combined for 76 minutes. They generated a total of 56 points. They poured out every ounce of energy they had. But 56 points from 2 completely drained players won't cut it when the head coach refuses to utilize her bench. And this leads us to the critical error that is going to define Stephanie White's time in Indianapolis.
Because I want to see Kelsey Mitchell points. I got to see this, bro. Because if I'm not mistaken, she did it again. She did it again. Did she do it again? Kelsey Mitchell.
We need to address Shatori Walker-Kimbrough. 3 games into the season, and that is 3 straight DNPs by coach's decision for Walker-Kimbrough. She has been parked on the bench in civilian clothes. Let me remind you precisely who this athlete is. During the preseason matchup against the New York Liberty, Walker-Kimbrough delivered 18 points off the bench. She was a +12. She was the most dynamic, dependable bench option on the entire squad. She is an experienced pro who understands how to create her own look, push the pace in transition, and produce in one-on-one situations. She is exactly the type of player who can give Clark and Mitchell a breather without the whole offense falling apart into nothingness. Yet Stephanie White simply refuses to put her in, not for one single moment. While Clark is out there grinding for 37 minutes with a painful back, And Mitchell is logging 38 minutes on a body that wore down from exhaustion last year. The supporters have to sit there and watch Walker Kimbrough stuck on the bench while the star players completely exhaust themselves in double overtime. Here is the math that ought to alarm every single Fever supporter. If Walker Kimbrough receives just 8 to 10 minutes a night, two critical things alter. First, Clark's workload drops from 37 minutes to 30. Her back gets the rest it needs. Her shot selection gets sharper because her legs aren't completely spent by the final period. Second, Mitchell's time drops to 32 minutes. Her efficiency climbs, and perhaps she actually records a single assist instead of wrapping up a 38-minute performance with 0 assists because she is forced to play exhausting, isolated basketball. 8 to 10 minutes from Walker Kimbrough turns those 2 overtime defeats into 2 comfortable victories. And the Fever would be undefeated right now. That isn't a guess. That is straightforward basketball math. WNBA Pro has been pointing this out since opening night, and Stephanie White is actively choosing to ignore the numbers. Instead, she relies on rotations that make no tactical sense. And that is precisely why the Fever squandered a commanding 13-point advantage in this matchup. This feels like Vanderbilt all over again. When the pressure mounts, the coaching adjustments completely disappear.
They're allowing Stephanie White to sabotage this team. That's exactly what she's doing, bro. She's sabotaging it.
But we can't let management escape this debate either, because the coaching staff is also forced to work with a fundamentally broken roster setup. Do you recall the off-season? Do you remember everyone pleading with this front office to sign a proven interior player, a genuine baseline threat like Temi Fagbenel? They passed on it. They chose to save money, and the Washington Mystics took full advantage. The Mystics collected 31 defensive rebounds. 31. Every time the Fever missed a shot, the play was over. The Fever only secured 11 offensive boards because they lacked the physical presence to fight in the paint. And that glaring deficit became even more obvious when Aaliyah Boston ran into trouble. The former top draft pick played 20 minutes and 40 seconds, finishing with 9 points. But she recorded a devastating -12 rating. -12 in just 20 minutes of action. That means every single time the starting center took the floor, the Mystics were tearing the Fever apart. Whether she is still working her way back from that lower leg issue or the offensive system is completely failing to feed her in her sweet spots, a -12 from your all-WNBA center is a major emergency that Stephanie White has completely failed to address. And it only gets worse. Raven Johnson, brought in specifically to act as a defensive stopper, played a mere 4 minutes and 16 seconds. She put up a -10 rating. Let me say that again. -10 in 4 minutes of basketball. The defense entirely fell apart the moment she checked into the game. Something is fundamentally broken with how White is managing her bench depth.